In 1984, Jennifer Thompson was brutally assaulted and raped in her home in North Carolina. During the attack, she made a conscious decision to memorize her attacker's face. She was determined to remember every detail so she could identify him. She identified Ronald Cotton from a photo lineup. She was certain. She testified in court with absolute confidence. She picked him out of live lineup too. I know it was him, she said with conviction. Ronald Cotton was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. 13 years later, DNA evidence proved that Ronald Cotton was innocent. The actual rapist was Bobby Poole, a man who bore some resemblance to Cotton but was not the same person. Jennifer Thompson's memory, the one she had deliberately tried to encode, the one she was most confident about, was completely false. She wasn't lying. Her memory felt completely authentic. Thompson spent years feeling devastated, but she eventually met Cotton after his release. She wrote a book about it, but even after the DNA evidence proved her memory was wrong, she still felt like she was remembering him correctly. The false memory didn't disappear just because facts contradicted it. So, if this can happen to a normal individual intentionally trying hard to keep that moment in her memory, how can you be so certain the childhood you lived is accurate? Let's understand why this happens. Here's what made this happen to Jennifer Thompson. Your brain isn't trying to record what happened, it's trying to make sense of it. And that's where everything falls apart. Memory is an active system that receives information from the senses, organizes it, stores it, and then, when needed, retrieves it. The retrieval part is our focus for this video. It is easy to think that memory is like a recorder. What we put in, we get back exactly like that. But retrieval is not retrieval actually. Retrieval is reconstruction. When you remember something, your brain doesn't retrieve a file. It rebuilds the experience from scattered pieces, stored across different regions. Some pieces are accurate, some are fragments of other experiences, and some are filled in by our brain's best guesses. Think of it like reassembling a shattered plate. You find some pieces, they fit together in a certain way, but there are gaps. So your brain looks at the shape, at the pattern, and it fills in the missing pieces. Usually it gets it right, but sometimes the shape of the whole leads leads it to recreate a piece that was never part of that plate at all. This process is called constructive memory. Your brain reconstructs memories because it's more efficient than storing perfect recordings. It's more adaptive. It lets you extract the meaning from experiences rather than just archiving raw data. The problem is that the reconstruction process has built-in vulnerabilities, and scientists have learned exactly how to exploit them. In the 1990s, a psychologist named Elizabeth Loftus conducted an experiment that became famous in psychology circles. She brought college students into her lab and told them she was studying childhood experiences. She had their parents provide real stories from their childhood. But Loftus also added one completely fictional story. She told the students about the time they got lost in a shopping mall when they were 5 years old. They were frightened. A kind elderly woman helped them find their parents. It never happened. It was entirely made up. She had the students think about all the stories and try to remember details. And here's what happened. She had the students think about all four stories and try to remember details. And here's what happened. Within a few interviews, about a quarter of the students started to remember the shopping mall incident. They added details as they could see the stores. They remembered feeling scared. One student became emotional recalling how traumatic it had been. When Loftus finally told them the story was fake, they didn't believe her. They insisted the memory was real. This experiment has been replicated hundreds of times with different false memories. Scientists have made people remember getting lost in the woods, getting attacked by animals, committing crimes they didn't commit, having entire conversations that never happened. And once a false memory is planted, people defend it fiercely. They'll argue with you about it. They'll bring up details that feel authentic to them. But here's the question. If memory is reconstructive, why it has to be wrong? The answer is something called source confusion. Your brain stores the elements of an experience, the emotion, the sensory details, the narrative, but it doesn't always keep perfect track of where those elements came from. You saw a photo of a shopping mall last week. You heard a story from a friend. You had a dream. These sources all get blurred together in your memory. And when your brain reconstructs a memory, if all the right elements are available, it will assemble them whether they came from the actual experience or not. The implications of this are profound. They are also uncomfortable. Think about your sense of identity. Who you are is built on your personal narrative. The stories you tell about yourself, your childhood experiences, the formative moments that shaped you. And if many of those memories are reconstructed rather than retrieved, then there is a sense in which the story you are telling about yourself isn't fully real. It is partly authored by your brain's confabulation. The Thompson case perfectly illustrates this. Thompson had actually seen Poole somewhere before, possibly in passing, and her brain stored his face in memory. When she tried to remember her attacker's face during the lineup, her brain provided the face it had stored, Poole's, but attributed it to the assault. This is also why eyewitness testimony is unreliable, why people remember historical events differently, why your memories of your relationship are different from your partner's memories of it, why your siblings remember your childhood differently than you do. You are not lying, you are not gaslighting, you are all genuinely reconstructing the same events differently. Once you understand this about memory, you start to see it everywhere. You see it in politics, different groups remember the same historical events in contradictory ways. And each group is sincerely certain they are right because their memory feels authentic. You see it in families. Siblings have completely different memories of the same childhood. You see it in relationships. Both people remember crucial conversations in conflicting ways. Now think about it. Everyone you love has a false version of you in their head, and you have a false version of them in yours. You are in relationships with people who don't really exist. They exist only as reconstructions in each other's unreliable memories. Every intimacy is based on mutual hallucination. If memory is reconstruction, not retrieval, then the past doesn't exist in any meaningful sense. It only exists as a neural pattern that your brain decided to create, which means reality isn't what happened. Reality is what your brain believes happened. And if everyone's brain is reconstructing the past differently, then there is no objective reality at all. There is only the competing fictions inside billions of skulls. The solution isn't to try to make your memory more accurate. That's mostly impossible. The solution is humility. Recognizing that your memories are partial reconstructions, holding them more lightly, being curious about how others remember the same event differently, being open to the possibility that the story you have been telling about your past might be incomplete or distorted. Let us take an example. Imagine your sibling remembers your shared childhood completely differently than you do. Instead of fighting about who is right, you might ask, what are they seeing that I'm not? That's humility. And here's something that might change how you think about your future. If your past memories are reconstructed, then how you are feeling about your past right now isn't determined by what happened, it is determined by how you are currently reconstructing it. Which means you have more power to change how you feel about your past than most people realize. Not by denying it or minimizing it, but by genuinely reimagining it. Your childhood memories are probably fake in the sense that they are not recordings of what happened. They are reconstruction. They are partially you, partially your parents, partially your culture, partially your brain's most educated guesses. And that's not a bug. That's how your mind makes meaning of your life. Which means you have more agency over your past than you realize. Not over what happened, but over what it means. So, what are you choosing to remember about yourself today?